Good afternoon, everyone. We'll try that again. Come on, it's a beautiful day. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here on such a beautiful day. It is my honor to have you here and to host you here at this wonderful event. My name is Tony Collins. If I haven't had a chance to meet you, I have the honor of serving as the Recreation and Parks Director for this great city of Columbus. Thank you again for being here today. It's such a blessing to be able to celebrate this day in the honor of Mr. Hugh Dorrian with the dedication of Dorrian Green. First, please. First as the city treasurer, then as the Columbus City Auditor, Mr. Dorrian has served as a dedicated and unwavering public servant for 52 years to the city of Columbus and our residents. He served alongside of many great leaders, but has always been the prominent leader, giving back to our neighborhoods and giving back to the residents of Columbus. This park has been a bright memory for Mr. Dorrian. In fact, he spent many years playing in this neighborhood, he tells me, right down the street at Sunshine Park and Sunshine Community Center. In fact, I often joke with him, it's now known as Dodge Park, by the way, if you didn't know it, it's just right around the corner. But I know one of the first stories I had a chance to hear from some of my fun predecessors who are here, thank you for being here, they tell me of Mr. Dorrian's playfulness, we'll call it, at Sunshine Park. So we appreciate him and his in all of those stories. Dorrian Green is a great memory, a great honor or a great location to commemorate Mr. Green. It's an interactive outdoor experience with gardens and spaces that extend our educational mission, as well as our partners with COSI, their educational mission. And it complements the investments that we've made in the downtown neighborhood, as well as the Franklinton neighborhood. This is, in fact, a neighborhood park. Dorrian Green, in addition to its many play areas for kids and adults, has a lot of amenities that people may not notice, so I definitely challenge you to get out and walk around and look at the details. There are sensory gardens, there are butterfly gardens, pollinator gardens, and prairie gardens, all consisting of native plants from our great state of Ohio. The northwest and southwest entrances, hopefully you had a chance in seeing them, features the original stone columns, the stone entrances from the Central High School football field that once sat right here. Probably a little bit lower, right? But it was right here. So we are very excited to have been able to preserve some of the neighborhood history of this neighborhood. Some of you may recognize the spectrum tree that we relocated into the park from COSI, which celebrates Isaac Newton's discovery that sunlight contains the entire spectrum of colors, and is a great recognition of our partnership with our friends at COSI. Dorrian Green is a special place. And it will be a long time special place. It's one more example of the many opportunities our department offers throughout the city of Columbus, including our 29 community centers, our 120 miles of trails, and our 353 other parks throughout our neighborhoods in the city of Columbus. We're so pleased to have this join one of the many things we get to offer to our residents in Columbus. This park demonstrates the three pillars of what we live by in our profession. It demonstrates our practices of conservation, health and wellness, and social equity. It provides access to a neighborhood and the families and the kids and the adults in this neighborhood to a much needed park. It also helps our department fulfill our mission of connecting our community through the power of nature, creative arts, and health and wellness. Dorrian Green bridges our community together, and I'm proud its namesake will honor a man who has exemplarily served the Columbus residents for so many years. Before we get going, before we move on, I'd like to acknowledge some of our special guests who are in the audience today. First off, some of our great leaders in the community, Council President Shannon Hardin, Council President Pro Tem, Council President Pro Tem Mike Cinziano, Councilmember Mitch Brown, Councilmember Emmanuel Remy, Councilmember Priscilla Tyson, and I think they're here, and I just don't see them, but Councilmember Jiza Page, who's our former chair, and Councilmember Elizabeth Brown, who is also our current chair of Recreation and Parks Commission. We appreciate all of their leadership. I'd also like to welcome our commissioners, our Recreation and Parks commissioners, Dave Paul, Mo Wright, Jennifer Adair, Derek Clay, Rob Dorans, Carla Rothen, and Betty Stahl. Thank you for being here. And I'd also like to thank all of our other city leaders, including Auditor Kilgore and other members of our directors and leadership staff who are all here, members of the finance department, former members of the auditor staff, some of our directors are all here. Thank you for all you being here and your support. Two more thank yous that are really critical, and I want to make sure I get them out. One is I want to thank COSI. CEO Frederick Bertley, who's here. If you haven't had a chance to talk to Frederick, please do. He is just the greatest person to work with in terms of partnership. And this park, working with his leadership team has been nothing but so much excitement to talk about the opportunity that this park brings for COSI and Recreation and Parks to work together. So thank you, Frederick, and thank you for everything you do. And today, his people are out here leading activities for the kids and young people out here. And then lastly, I'd like to thank the folks with Cornica Coasting and MKSK who did all the work in the design and the construction of the park under the leadership of CDDC. And I can't say enough about the CEO, Guy Worley, and Amy Taylor, and the CDDC leadership team. I know Guy and Amy are here, and thank you so much for all that you've done to make this project come together. Another great collaboration for Columbus and our downtown neighborhoods. Thank you. You guys all know that I've been here for about 3 years now, and we can't do what we do in Recreation and Parks without the leadership and the support of our team at City Hall. And Mayor Ginther has been nothing but supportive and helping us drive these visions forward. So it's my honor today to introduce Mayor Ginther.
Good afternoon. What a great day here in the city of Columbus. We get to celebrate and recognize one of Franklinton's favorite sons and get to dedicate this special place that families and children, kind of the cornerstone and hallmark of Mr. Dorrian through and through. Who he is a man, a public servant, and a tremendous friend and mentor of mine. So to all the mayors that have joined us, both Mayor Coleman, Mayor Leshenka, all the members of council under leadership President Hardin and his team, former commissioner and co-conspirator Dewey Stokes, and to everyone, but most especially the Dorrian family. We talk about this all the time, that it's much more than public servants who serve. The whole family serves. And to the Dorrian family, we say thank you. We say thank you for supporting through tough times and great days this incredible man and all that he has done. We are who we are as a city today, in large part because of Hugh Dorrian's vision, commitment, integrity, and focus on people. Many of us here today have titles, some of which we choose and others choose for us. Mayor, Council President, Commissioner. Our honoree today goes by Mr. And it is always Mr., as in Mr. Dorrian. No one but maybe one amongst us, or two, may call him by his first name. I never have and never will. For all the rest of us, it is Mr. Dorrian, a sign of deep respect earned from 52 years as a public servant, 12 terms as our auditor. It is much more than longevity that we celebrate today, however. It is under Mr. Dorrian's stewardship, Columbus has earned the reputation as one of the country's most financially stable big cities. His leadership afforded our community the opportunity to thrive and to grow, and to invest in the future generations to come. To give everyone some perspective on the work he has done for the city, Mr. Dorrian has set the parameters for the budget totaling $18.2 billion during his career. And he has overseen the issuance of $34.8 billion in municipal securities, short-term notes, and long-term bonds for the city. Mr. Dorrian has made a tremendous impact on the policies that have helped shape the city we know and love today, and he deserves enormous credit for our success. He had a strong hand in the revitalization of the Short North and other downtown neighborhoods, the Arena District, University District, Scioto Mile, and Franklinton. As we were thinking about the right way to recognize Mr. Dorrian for his service, we came up with a couple of different ideas. But this dedication, this park, this bridge connecting Columbus's original neighborhood and where Mr. Dorrian grew up, Franklinton, to downtown, really exemplifies the bridge that he was and still is today between neighborhoods and our downtown. He has never forgotten where he came from and is so proud of the great neighborhood of Franklinton and all of the great neighborhoods of this city. I may try to classify myself as the neighborhood's mayor, and that's just because I'm following the neighborhood's auditor, someone who has believed in basic city services in every neighborhood throughout our great city. Equity, fairness, inclusion, and making sure that everybody was able to share in our success moving forward. I don't get to do this often as mayor, but it is one incredible perk I have with the office I hold, and that is to be able to present keys to the city. And it just turns out that one of the greatest public servants and greatest citizens this community has ever had is going to be given one today. Mr. Dorrian, would you join me up here as I present the key to the city? Just one closing thought. Of all the great accomplishments and great things Mr. Dorrian has done, one thing of a truly committed leader and public servant is to make sure that all of that work and the culture that he built in his office and the incredible public servants there, that he would identify, invest in, and build and develop the right leader to carry on that great work. It was never about him. It was about the work of the people of that office and delivering for the people of Columbus. And so when Mr. Dorrian identified, invested in, built up, and prepared our new auditor to carry on that great work, I think it's just another great example of his commitment, not just to the city as it is, but the city we're going to become. Thank you, Mr. Dorrian.
Thank you. Now it's my honor to introduce former Mayor Greg Leshenka.
Tony, thank you very much. Mayor Ginther, Mayor Coleman, Mr. Dorrian, the Dorrian family, and all those who are here, this is a terrific day. I really can't wait to hear what Dewey Stokes has to say, who grew up with Hugh, because the rest of us are going to be somewhat polite, but I don't know that. I can already do that with Dewey. For those of you who don't know Dewey, he has a little spizzerinctum, as Mayor Sensenbrenner said. So, as we are in between Franklinton and COSI, this is a wonderful tribute to not only Hugh, as Mayor Ginther said, but the entire Dorrian family. I can think of no better way to memorialize a man I have huge respect for, who emulates the term public service in a good way, and a man who loves Coney hot dogs and they're here today. So this is going to be a nice conclusion as we finish up. A couple of these things that I'm going to share with you ever so briefly, I've said before, so if you've heard it before, please indulge me. My wife Catherine and I are here to extend our best to you, Mr. Dorrian, and the Dorrian family. And as we were in public life, we look to the example humbly presented by Hugh and his family, because he and his wife and family showed it could be done. And that's not often the case in public service. There is a strain that occurs in all families, but particularly beyond the elected official. There's a price to be paid, good and bad. And all too often, it's unfair. But when you see examples like the Dorrians, it makes you think it can be done. So we tip our hat to both of you and your entire family. Hugh, to me, was a role model even before I got into the political arena as city attorney. He was a man who exuded integrity and character, and as was said by Mayor Ginther, he did it the right way. And he was like the Mayflower had a center board, the center board to those of us who helped shape policy, and he was there, maybe invisible to the public overall, but he was clearly a voice of strength to do it the right way. And if we do it, we'll be a city on the rise. We are the only growing city over the last 50 or 60 years in Ohio of a major community, in no small part because of Mr. Hugh Dorrian. You'll see that Hugh came with a tie. He said the only reason he did because he thought I was going to wear one, and frankly, if I knew that was the case, I wouldn't have wore a tie today. Because those days are pretty much over, unless when I have to. But another Irishman, Edmund Burke, who was kind of a role model for the Founding Fathers as we went through tough times in the founding, said this: "Manners are of more importance than laws." Mr. Dorrian exhibited, even though he is a tremendous partisan, that both sides can make it work. Let's treat each other with respect and courtesy, keep the people first, and have a debate on the issues, not making it personal. Edmund Burke was talking about Mr. Dorrian. His manners, his impeccable stature, his commitment to the city speaks louder than anything I can say. The last weekend of his time in office, I called the office and nobody answered. But shortly thereafter, I invited him to have a lunch at Tommy's, because that would be a preferred place to go for Hugh Dorrian. And we did. And I said, Hugh, violating the Ginther motto, I said, I called the office. He says, I was there, I just wasn't answering the phone. So he was working on the loose ends before he handed it off to Megan and the auditor responsibilities. That's the kind of man with the work ethic that Mr. Dorrian has had. Public service is in the heart of the Dorrian family. Yeah, they may have had what Tony said a little mildly, maybe fringe emotions at times. Maybe that wasn't the right words. But I understood that from others who knew Hugh and Mike Dorrian and the Dorrian family. And Dewey was right in the thick of things with them. But look what they turned out to be in making exemplary actions for public servants. Hugh is the public servant that doesn't follow the definition of politician, one who thinks about the next election. He follows the definition of statesman, that person who thinks about the next generation. And the next generation was in good hands with Hugh guiding all of us to help this city continue on the rise. So, Mr. Dorrian, this is your day. There are 3 of us who are mayors. We represent other mayors, other elected officials, but most importantly, hopefully, the people of Columbus. And as a small token, I would like to have both Mayor Ginther and Mayor Coleman come forward. And then if you will help escort Mr. Dorrian, Michael, we would like to present you with a token of our appreciation. It is a picture of the 3 of us at a recent event, signed by us. which may or may not give it more or less value. You can determine that. But let me assure you, is with heartfelt gratitude for all your years of service. Thank you, God bless you, and may you have many more years of great health and opportunity unbounded.
Thank you, Mayor. And now it's my honor to introduce former Mayor Michael Coleman.
Mr. Mayors, family, cabinet members, Mr. Dorrian, Mr. Commissioner, all elected officials, it is a great honor to be here with you this afternoon. It's a beautiful day, and we're about to do a beautiful thing, and that's to dedicate this park to what I would say is the most important elected official in the history of our city. And I think about this place that we are at right now, Dorrian Green. And you have to thank a lot of people for it to just be here. The first thanks goes to Mayor Ginther, Mayor G. That's what they say in the hood. And we're so grateful for that. And then you have to thank Guy Worley, G, GW, who did a marvelous job of rebuilding the riverfront and this park, sometimes through impossible odds. But Guy Worley and Amy Taylor, both of you, did an outstanding job in stepping forward and making sure this happened. But the person we must thank the most is Mr. Dorrian, Mr. D. And so I know why they named this. They didn't name it Dorrian Blue. They didn't name it Dorrian the Park. They named it Dorrian Green because you're Irish. And it fits so well with your heritage and this city and this community. I don't have anything to give out. Like a key. I miss those days. But I resurrected it. I went down to the old trash burning power plant. I did. I said, I can't stand up here empty-handed. I knew Mayor Leshenka would have a pitcher. I know Mayor Ginther would have a key. I dug around, kicked around, dug around, and I found something equally important. Between 1977 and the year 2010, our city incurred a massive debt opposed by Mr. Dorrian. $434 million of retired debt occurred in 2010. The trash burning power plant, that's what I'm talking about. And then this year, SWACO will retire its debt as well. So as you retire, the entire debt of the power plant is being retired as well. So I got to bring up all three mayors. All two mayors, come up, please, again. And Mayor Leshenka, if you could help Mr. Dorrian up. I don't have a key. I don't have a picture. What I have is a piece of that power plant. and the rock from that piece of that power plant. And so I'm gonna put a plaque on one of these two, but in the meantime, I want you to take this home and think about that $400 million debt that was retired. All right. Okay. Yeah. I'm not so sure I want that.
All right, right here, guys. Okay, right here. Right here. Thank you.
I think that one he liked more than the key, Mayor. I'm not sure.
You said it was expensive.
It was much more expensive. Excuse me. Now it's my honor to introduce Councilmember Priscilla Tyson.
Thank you, Director Collins. And you know, the weather this week had been a little iffy, right? It was raining, it was cold, but we knew that the weather would change for Mr. Dorrian's event. It absolutely was going to change. And look at today. And so I want to thank again Director Collins and his team. I also want to thank, where's Frederick? Frederick, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for allowing us to have Dorrian Green on the People's Peninsula. And I want to thank my colleagues, President Hardin, President Pro Tem Stenziano, Councilman Brown, Councilman Remy, and my other colleagues who could not be here. And certainly our gift is, we didn't bring any gifts, Mr. Dorrian. Our gifts is that council members have passed legislation to make sure that all this would happen. That is our gift, because it absolutely requires a council to be able to make things happen. And you know, this really is an important day to be able to have three mayors come out and celebrate you. It's a testament to what you have done in this community. I want to thank Mayor Ginther, again, my colleagues on council, for supporting this dedication, as well as COSI and the Columbus Downtown Corporation. I served as the chair of finance for many, many years with Mr. Dorrian. And I had the privilege of meeting with Mr. Dorrian every other week. And whenever else I wanted to go down and see him, he was always in his office and ready to be able to talk to me and my council colleagues. I also sat in on the sessions with the bond rating agencies that regularly evaluate Columbus, that determine what our bond rating is going to be. And let me be very, very clear about this. The reason that Columbus has had a AAA bond rating, when you sit in on those meetings, there are different areas that they evaluate. They evaluate many different areas, but the one area that we always are going to get the highest rating is the area around the leadership. And that leadership is because of Mr. Hugh Dorrian. They hold him in high esteem and he's had a lot of different individuals that have been on those rating calls from those agencies, and all of them have absolute respect for him. And you pretty much know that because of his integrity, they know he's telling the truth. He never hid anything. If there were ever any challenges, he brought them up to them so that they knew where we stand. City Auditor Emeritus Hugh Dorrian, of course, is a native of Columbus, who devoted more than 52 years of his life serving the residents of Columbus and Central Ohio. 52 years of his life that he took away time from his family, his children, his grandchildren. So it's really this is a real wonderful testament to him to be able to have Dorrian Green for his family to be able to enjoy. I also had the experience of working with Mr. Dorrian through one of our greatest economic challenges in the city of Columbus, the recession of 2018. I was still rather a new council member. I was just elected in 2007, and now we had a real issue in this community. I watched Mr. Dorrian's Hugh demeanor as he proposed and fought for an income tax increase that would allow the city to keep the basic city services like trash pickup, snow removal, street repairs. It also allowed us to avoid layoffs of our police and fire. It was not an easy sell. Mayor Coleman remembers that. Now Mayor Ginther, we were all there. We know that wasn't easy. Our community was very concerned. However, I believe that the tax increase successfully passed, largely due to the confidence that our residents had and have in Mr. Dorrian. So anyone who knows me understands my admiration that I have for Mr. Dorrian. And while there are many exciting adjectives that the former mayors have already stated that describe his leadership attributes, I'm going to limit mine to the 3 C's. Mr. Dorrian is a man of courage, a man of courage. The quality of spirit and conduct, that's him. Anyone who knows him understands he is committed to doing the right thing and was never, ever afraid to stand alone if he had to. He would say, now, I'm letting you know, I don't agree with that, and should I be asked, I will state that. And I think that was enough for most people to say, we understand, we'll look for another alternative. So he's also a man of conviction. He is not a man who throws his hand up to see which way the wind is blowing to try to be popular. Mr. Dorrian's yes means yes, and his no means no. He is definitely fixed and firm on his beliefs, and that's why he is so respected. And finally, he is a man of compassion. Mr. Dorrian understands a biblical principle, what you do for the least of these, Matthew 25:40. Mr. Dorrian's success can be attributed to hope, belief, and trust in the residents of Columbus. He not only has love and compassion for his family, the staff that he worked with, but also Columbus is his family. He's always worked for us. He has valued the future of this city, putting together principles and policies that will keep this city strong long into the future. Mr. Dorrian, we, my council colleagues especially, we thank you for the lifetime of service to this great city, and to be in Dorrian Green is a place that, as you care about all the city, a place that all residents have the opportunity to come and enjoy. Thank you again for your leadership and your love for the city.
Before I recognize our next guest or invite our next guest up, I think it's appropriate to also thank our county commissioners for their help and assistance in all the work that we've done downtown in these 2 parks. And Commissioner O'Grady is here, and thank you for all that you've done to help us with these 2 parks. So it's only appropriate that I now invite Commissioner Dewey Stokes, former Commissioner Dewey Stokes.
First of all, you should record this for prosperity. You want to really help out from the Parks and Rec, you'll help me with the Harrison House and the Sullivan House out here on West Broad Street. Get a little money from you, honey. Like the bumblebee, you're getting a flower, we make you some honey. But coming here today and growing up in the Franklinton area in the late 40s and 50s, That's the key, Hugh. Went too long. And Hugh and his family was at 749 Campbell Avenue over in Franklinton. His mom and dad raising 8 children over there. They all attended Holy Family Grade School, and the boys split off from us and went to St. Charles out there and got their degree from St. Charles. Hugh, today, we can say we're a long way from Sunshine Park. The days that we spent at Sunshine Park when Mr. Jacobs was there, Mel Dodge, probably a lot of them don't remember Mr. Jacobs. He preceded Mel Dodge. But we were there at those days. And it's a shame they tore down that beautiful structure at Sunshine Park. It was a healthy structure. It stood through the 1913 flood and everything else that come through this community. But today, we're here to celebrate a new park for Franklinton. I'm sure that Mr. Jacobs and Mel Dodge would be proud of your accomplishments in this new park for our Franklinton residents. Your dedication to our community goes without saying, even though it has been said here several times today. The Dorrian family has made contribution after contribution to our community over the years. Their family, active in not just the politics of the city, but also in our Holy Family School and our alumni. The things that they've done for us over the years, the dedication, the 52 years of exemplary public service goes a long way. All that just doesn't happen. It doesn't just happen to you or to me. It's hard work. And of course, most families, from his mom and dad caring and providing a good education for Hugh, and later the great support that he receives from his lovely wife Janice and their children and that family. Public service requires more time than the average citizen realizes. It takes time from your family and your home life. And so to Janice and the family, we just say thank you for sharing Hugh with us and the community. God bless you. I try to tell you, don't tell people when you're retiring because they'll find a lot of things for you to do. And that's good advice for your former mayors and the council members down the road. Okay. But you, for your retirement, to honor you, and we grew up in that Sunshine Park, played a little football there in your day, basketball, got some good training from the park from those wonderful leaders we had back then at Sunshine Park. Of course, Sunshine Park now is called Mel Dodge Park, and they moved it out here and spent a lot of money rebuilding it and put in a new swimming pool, new attraction out there to complement the Franklinton area. We're moving forward. We hope that this beautiful park today, dedicated to you, Mr. Dorrian, for future generations, that we hope and pray that will produce some great service, great community service people. What a great name for this park when you think about Mr. Dorrian's past, 52 years dealing with the politics and dealing with the finances of this community. 52 years of saying no when it was necessary to say no, and 52 years of saying yes when it was good for the community. What a tribute to an individual that has the intestinal fortitude to stand up under those pressures from time to time. Dorrian Green, I want you to stop for just a second and think about this and make this connection. Why did they call this Dorrian Green? This man kept Columbus in the green for 52 years and took us out of debt for 52 years. As you heard earlier today, there's no red left. It's green. It now falls on you, Megan, and the council members to keep it green, to keep us going in the right direction. It's so appropriate to name this great park and to thank the Hugh Dorrian family for their sacrifice and contribution they made in support. I can't go without saying to you the number of hours that you give up with your family when you take on a political career. And I can say this with the fondness of heart. I know for a fact this man did not have to take on a political career to be successful in this great nation of ours. And when I served as county commissioner, and I listened to him when I had questions, some of the people at the county thought I was pretty smart. But I got a lot of good advice from Uncle Huey from time to time about where we should go and what we should do. All you had to have was a spine to stand up and stick up for what you knew was right. And when you got advice from him, as was said earlier, you didn't have to worry whether it was going to fluctuate or bend in the wind like a weeping willow. It was stone like an oak tree. You could count on it, and you could count on his support. So there is no greater honor than to name this great park after Hugh and his family. This great park will serve many, many great children in the future, I hope, and produce some of the great leaders of the future will emanate from this park because of what you've contributed, Dewey, over the years. So without any other ado, I will introduce our honoree today, Mr. Hugh Dorrian. Thank you, Hugh.
Sit down, please. Since you're all sitting in the shade, I will take a couple minutes. Lots and lots of memories with the speakers that came before me. I guess you can tell, I think Mayor Leshenka and Mayor Coleman and where'd Priscilla go? Tyson, they're probably tired of me asking them to attend to events with me, but I won't ask again. This you know, this is the area right here and a few blocks to the west where Lucas Sullivan came and made the very, very first settlement in Central Ohio in 1797. There's a statue of Lucas Sullivan just on the other side of COSI, and Michael Coleman used to love to say that Lucas Sullivan and Hugh Dorrian grew up together. It is true that we lived in the same neighborhood, but quite different times. Mayor Leshenka mentioned my family, as did the other speakers, and I'll just mention another 2 weeks, my wife and I will be married 54 years. So I think if there is such a thing as a tolerance award, probably ought to go to Janice. Thank you, Janice. Okay. Collectively, we have 4 children and 10 grandchildren. I think they're almost all here today. Thank you all for showing up for Grandpa and for Dad. I also want to, and certainly not in the least, thank Almighty God for the years that He has given me and for the friends and the associates that I've made through the city of Columbus. No one can achieve any rightful levels or any quality performance without being surrounded by a competent, dedicated, wonderful staff. And several of those who I had the honor of working with are here. Where are you today? Darlene, Vicki, Megan, Marnie. There you are, way back there. Thank you all. Thank you all. And I know many of you will remember a chief deputy of many years ago and a finance director for the city, Joe Houston. Here's Joe's widow, Mrs. Houston. Thank you all. Thank you all. I'll just say I one time because I think that it comes back to me. The memory comes back to me. I can remember sitting in my office one day back in the 70s when the city was debating buying this Central High School in the land from Columbus City School District, and we came to a way of doing it. And I remember some of us talking at the time, you know, someday that might be Columbus's Central Park. My wife's a New Yorker, and I hear so much about Central Park that I thought, you know, ought to have one here. So it brings back a lot of memories. I hope every city employee and everyone associated with the city can be as proud of being a city employee as I am. We've got a wonderful, wonderful community here. Goes well beyond the walls of City Hall. But it's largely because of you and your ethics, your workmanship, your quality, your competence, and your caring for this community. I know there are many, many times when we agree and many times when we do not agree, but we must always keep an open, honest dialogue with each other, whether we agree or disagree. Mayor Ginther, Shannon, I mean, my heartfelt good wishes are with you because I know you've already met many challenges and they'll always be there. So God bless you in your work. And I simply say to you, thanks for the park. Thanks to all of you. Probably heard me say I'm the son of 2 immigrants that came to this nation back in 1920. And my mother came through Ellis Island. My father came in through Canada. They weren't married at the time. So when anyone wonders or questions whether this is the land of opportunity, I can stand up and say, me too. Me too. God bless you all. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dorrian. And now I want to invite everybody to visit, enjoy the park. Please check out all of the detail and the fun that's gone into making this a great place to be, a great place for our future leaders to grow up. Thank you again for everyone for being here. Have a great, wonderful day.
Hey,